So good morning. Welcome to the FortiWeb session. With us are Philippe Saint-Pierre and Sébastien Bial.
Yes, right.
Yes, right. And now we want to see how we can use FortiWeb and protect our web applications and all the nice features which FortiWeb has inside. So, okay. Then I will hand over to Sébastien.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just a quick presentation on my side. I don't know if the mic is switched to me. My name is Sébastien Bial. I'm a channel system engineer working mainly with our partners, and I'm taking care also of this FortiWeb solution as a specialist. So feel free to ask some question. We will deliver, I would say, a hybrid session, both technical and sales, because it's important to understand the value prop of the solution, also to position it well on the market. Philippe?
Thank you, Sébastien. Thank you, Rudy. Thank you both for hosting us also today. Very pleased to welcome you into this hybrid session. So thanks for the participants who came and enjoyed the croissant this morning. And also very welcome to all of you who are remote. Hopeful to see you also in the next session. We will make it more and more hybrid now into the future. So I'm Philippe Saint-Pierre. I'm the head of Adaptive Cloud for Switzerland. Adaptive Cloud is public cloud, Fortinet, FortiWeb, and everything related to automation, DevSecOps, everything related also to I would say, today the session is web protection, application protection, which is quite key. There's always a boundary between DevSecOps, web application protection. So we'll try to cover a little bit that boundary, but we can have additional sessions next if you're interested into DevSecOps, container security, CI/CD pipeline, and things like that. So don't hesitate to ask me, and we can organize a follow-up, either with you directly or in a seminar session. So great, so welcome again. I will get started more with the sales part, as Sébastien mentioned. So just to explain a bit, what is FortiWeb, what is the scope, what are the features, how it compares to the competition, what are the key differentiators, how to buy, and things like that. So I will cover this first section. I will go a bit quick because most of you want to see the demo, as I guess. But we will do a break between the first sales part, more related to sales, I would say, or product related, and then we will go a bit more in depth and do the demo next. So we'll do a quick 5-10 minutes break, bio break. So then you can also come with questions before the break or after the break on the first part. Then we go into more the demo section. Yeah. Good. So let's get started. So the first thing now is to position FortiWeb as what it is. Yeah. What it serves as a purpose. So the objective of FortiWeb is to address the digital transformation of your customer, and especially with the COVID, most of the CIOs, most of the security teams have been accelerating into digitalization. It becomes a key competitive advantage. They are all running into new business application development, into web application development, into mobile application development. It becomes a key differentiator in the market. And as such, obviously, the need for web protection is exploding because as you go into internet, then you obviously increase your threat level. Applications are also accelerating into their release cycle. All of the customers now are adopting, an agile methodology for application development. They have all CI/CD pipeline. They are starting to use, obviously, Jenkins, all the different environments, the Ansible things. So they are now into a situation where they push new release, new features, like on a bi-weekly basis versus every 3 months. Yeah. So as such, the level of risks is also increasing, because every time you release something into production, then there's a risk that there is bugs or errors or whatever, and that level of protection needs to be there as much as needed. Yeah, API usage is exploding. If you've seen the business results of MuleSoft, you can understand that. If you focus on just API gateway, here we have focus on API security. We'll go into it, but that is becoming more and more critical to the success of your customer. And last, the data is now obviously flowing more and more over internet, and as such also increasing the risks, and that is the context. So most of the customers have now started to use public cloud. We're talking about 76%. Most of your customers are considering 2 public clouds in the future. So AWS is opening the region during the summer into Switzerland. And for sure, they are going to talk to your customer. They are going to try to convince them to use multi-cloud. And it's going to happen into the next months or year. Yeah, so we need to be ready and help also customer into cloud security, and FortiWeb is addressing that. So this is, we expect that is for Europe, by the way, but Switzerland is usually 6 to 8 months late, but it's going in the same trend. Yeah, there's no difference. So you expect 50% of the application workloads to be in public cloud. Yeah, very much. So you have to address that. Now, if you go into public cloud, if you go into internet, there is an explosion of what is called the HTTP SQL injection attack, and this is where the attackers can inject code into the customer database and then obviously use it to as a Trojan horse to then drive data evasion. So we have seen our FortiGuard lab are publishing on a quarterly basis a security report, and we have seen an explosion of this SQL injection attack during and after COVID. So it is clearly one of the major risks that that customers need to address, and we have seen obviously that IPS detection now becoming the key focus. You cannot use just a firewall. You cannot use just a firewall because FortiGate does not see the HTTP traffic at the same level of granularity. So there is a need now to protect much better applications due to this explosion of threats and risks and attack out there. So just to give you some figure, so mid-size enterprise, we're not talking about Roche, Nestle, we're not talking about Novartis and all these guys who have thousands of usage of public cloud, but the mid-size enterprise now have frequently more than 100 web applications out there, and that is for their partner, for their supplier, for their customer, for the whole chain of business entities are using web applications, and very frequently they are going to end up more than 100 of these applications, and you cannot anymore again protect this application by a firewall or by a standard network protection, and the frequency, as I said, of going live is more than 25 updates on a monthly basis for most of the customers. So this is really key to look into web application security. The teams into your customer are all using web applications. So that is mobile application, supply chain, as I said, are using that also to manage distributor, to manage distributor partner, to ensure warehouse supplies. As you know, supply chain is becoming more and more critical now. So more and more customers are developing web applications there also. Obviously, finance is becoming all on public mobile and web application. And we are looking into a complete transformation into web applications of the entire enterprise ecosystem. In terms of the threat landscape, obviously, you have to look into the whole complete environment. Web application security is important, but it's not alone and it's not sufficient. So as we will focus today into obviously web application security and API security, you have to look at it into an ecosystem of security environment, and you have to help the customer to secure their CI/CD pipeline, their development, their container, as I was saying before. So this is clearly one of the key topics. If you're interested into that, we can hold a session into container security, Kubernetes security, how to manage your CI/CD pipeline security. We have new solutions that have been deployed recently, like FortiDevSec. Don't hesitate to raise your arm and let me know if you want to hear about that in more depth, because this is a very important topic. We will not cover it today, but just so you know, we have the solutions also. Network security, you know that very well. With FortiGate, we have obviously on top of north-south traffic filtering and visibility, we are using FortiGate VM to do east-west traffic filtering for container, pods, nodes. So also we can leverage the FortiGate VM into the application protection environment. So we will not cover that today, but just so you know, this is a very important part of the end-to-end security. And if you want to see how to deploy FortiGate VM to protect east-west traffic into a new application development environment, again, happy to do a demo, happy to share the best practice, the default architecture diagram with you. Raise your arm, ask for it. We can spend a bit of time in this, yeah. Cloud security is obviously critical. Azure security, AWS security, Google security, how to deploy into public cloud, how to secure express route, how to secure everything related to network-based native construct into the cloud world is quite key, and we have a very strong offering. We will focus obviously today here, yeah, and here. SaaS application is CASB, so how to get visibility, how to report any risk threats on SaaS application. We have a FortiCASB, and this is also related to compliance. So we can also help you and help customers with the CASB solution, yeah. So we will not focus on all of that. We will focus on web application and APIs today, but I wanted to give you an overview of the ecosystem, what you have to consider to protect the entire application landscape. So again, if you're interested, ask for it. We can do a follow-up presentation. So now focusing on web application and APIs, well, that is also where you have to focus into the run phase, yeah? How to protect application into production is the key focus of today. And the attacks are very much into different directions. They are into obviously exploits, that is the OWASP top 10. That is the minimum core basics, I would say, about application protection. So we obviously have this, and we maintain that into FortiLab into an ongoing basis. We have distributions twice per day to make sure it's up to date. As we discussed previously, we are going to protect against SQL injection, which is the key vector of attack into this web application framework. Then any cross-site scripting is also the number 3 attack vector and threats. All the vulnerable components, part of the web application design is also clearly attacked as a focus by threat actors. And server-side request and forgery is also what we are going to protect against, yeah? So these are the key threats against we will cover today and present to you. And then we have the 0-day, something which I will mention quickly, the bot attacks. We see also an explosion of bot attacks into our quarterly report. Initially, it was simple attacks that could be managed also through a FortiGate, but it is now clearly more and more, I would say, advanced. And pirates are using bot attack into a supply chain approach. You know, some of the teams develop the bots, some take these bots, improve it, attack, get artificial intelligence, machine learning to improve the bots, and then on, and it becomes now really critical for customer to manage. And API attack is becoming the norm. So this is really something you want to help your customer against, and this is most of the difficult threats to protect, I would say. So if we look into that, how to protect? So obviously you need a WAF. There's no way around. If your customer are using HTTP or layer 7 and proxy security from the FortiGate, that is clearly not enough. Yeah. Any customer deploying web application into production now needs a WAF due to all these risks, threats, recurrence of attack, and exposure of their data, exposure of their application to internet. So you need a WAF, and obviously the first thing we do is to protect this web application. The second, as you heard, is we protect against all the bot attack. We protect and we enable, by the way, compliance and regulatory compliance. And this is, for example, PCI DSS, as simple as that, yeah, or ISO. Most of your customer will need to have credit card purchasing capabilities on internet. And so they need to be PCI DSS compliant, and PCI DSS requires a WAF. There's no way around. You need to have a WAF if you want to be PCI DSS compliant. So this is one of the aspects about regulatory. In terms of compliance report, we will see down the line, FortiWeb is a component, but you will be able to report compliance from FortiAnalyzer. So you have to get the combo. We will go into a bit more detail. But that is the core component of compliance. And then obviously internet-facing APIs is what we discussed. Last but not least is how to help your customer to manage the logs, manage the threats, manage the risks, manage the events, manage the incidents into a consistent way. Because you know that web applications are very difficult to, or risks and threats on web application are difficult to monitor. There's a lot of events and most of your customers are struggling because of, we call it the event fatigue. Yeah, there's too much. And if you're an admin into networking, security, web application operation, you end up with tons and tons of events that are being logged on a daily basis, and it's very difficult to manage. So we came with a very strong value prop here to help customer to aggregate logs, manage it into a threat intelligent approach, and Sebastian will explain that into more detail. Yeah. So this is the reason why you should use FortiWeb. Simplify also the life of your customers and your IT and security admins. Yeah. That is a key opportunity and a key objective. So now going into a bit more, so we've done the sales pitch, yeah? So now we go a bit more into what it is in terms of feature, and then we'll go into the solution itself. So the first feature, as you've seen before, is web application protection. That's the baseline, yeah? So this is about OWASP top 10. This is protecting against all the threats which are known and unknown from that list. And this is where we obviously also reduce the admin overhead. We consolidate the threats, and we enable that through the integration with the Fabric and through FortiGuard. So I will let Sebastian explain into a bit more depth how it works.
Which one? This one? Okay. Thank you, Philippe. So as I said, as Philippe explained, we have this layered approach for web application security. It's really based on different way to protect against the different threats we can find on the web application. The first one are really the known threats, the known risk, easy to block, because it's always the same, you know, SQL injection, cross-site scripting. This is something we can easily regulate. So this is the first thing we are implementing into the FortiWeb solution. It's basically defining our static protection. So we can make a policy out of it, and we use this in order to protect against the known risk. How do we protect against unknown? This is where we introduce new technologies. So we have basically integration with our FortiGuard services. I will come more in details on what's behind. We also have cloud sandbox integration, so we can deliver cloud inspection of some files, for example, files upload. This is something where we need sometimes to have a full analysis of what is uploaded on the web application. So where sometimes we have zero-day threats and unknown attacks. We also try to reduce the admin overhead. So how we do it, basically, it's by introducing the machine learning stuff into the FortiWeb solution. I will come more in details how it works, but basically, we use this machine learning in order to be able to adapt to the change in the model, and not to make it really static analysis, not to make it a whitelist. One time we define the application and basically we don't change it. So we try to make it really live, and I will explain how it works in more details. But take it really as a layered approach, you know. This solution, basically, first, we can block all the known stuff, like we use IP reputation, for example, for blocking all the botnets, malicious hosts, everything like that. So this is something taking out from our FortiGuard services. We can also do DDoS protection at the web level. So it's really important for your customer in order not to be fully blind into their business application. So we provide also this layer of protection. Basically, we also provide protocol validation, because it's important to have a clean HTTP request. So everything which is not clean, we can basically drop this. We also use FortiGuard services to block known attacks, as I said, because all those attacks are referenced. So if we know it, we can basically kick it. Integration also with antivirus and DLP. So this is everything, either protocol, known, or I would say signature-based protection as a first layer. We also have a Fabric integration there, so where you can integrate the FortiWeb with the Fabric. So the two, I would say, main protection we have is with FortiGate, where we can basically exchange on the IP host we want to block, for example. So we can easily block it at that level, and also the sandbox integration for the file inspection I mentioned, and FortiAnalyzer for all the logging part, but we will come on this. The next topic we also want to cover is the bot defense. Of course, when we are talking about bots, we need to differentiate between the legitimate bots, everything related to crawler, to Google, or those bots which are legitimate and which are required to make your application live on the business, and everything which is bad bots, and we need to identify this traffic. So for this, we have also this kind of integration. So we use also IP reputation for that, coming from the FortiGuard. We use signature, traffic threshold also to understand if it's known traffic, bad traffic, the volume of bad traffic. We also analyze the client, and on top of that, we also have a machine learning features in order to differentiate this legitimate bots and bad bots activity. So this is something we add on top. This is a specific use case, but it's also something really useful into the web application protection space. So as I said, we have this bot management, so we protect against scanners, crawlers, and also this the credential stuffing stuff is also something we cover with this bot defense, because those bots can also try to steal the credential for your customers. So it's really important to protect against that. We were talking about regulatory compliance at the beginning. So basically, with our solution, we can tick the box of the PCI DSS compliance, I would say, because every industry which requires card payments, also banking industries are covered in this space, will require to have a WAF in place. So I would say with this, you are confident that you can cover this risk because we cover this part of the solution. I can come more details on that, but basically we are protecting all we can protect with a WAF solution in this space in the regulatory compliance. Now let's talk about protecting internet-facing API. More and more companies now expose their API for many purposes, for I would say basically integrating with our solution, for management, for interacting with people, for mobile application, with many use of the web application, of the API application right now. And the problem is sometimes that those API are too much exposed, not really secure. And this becomes a new problem because you don't need to secure only your web application, but you need also to secure your API. Because if you are able to manipulate the API, then you can leak data, you can manipulate data. And we have a lot of examples coming on that, because if you don't secure correctly your API, it's really, really a problem. So what we can do in this case with our solution is to have a complete view on the schema. We can validate this schema. We can also be able to do API user management, also verification of the key, and also limit the API you want to expose outside, because it's really important that you don't expose everything which is not needed outside. For example, if you have some, I would say, admin access or admin requests into your API call, then you can do it. And what we introduce in our new version of FortiWeb is this machine learning for API discovery. So we will see in more details what's behind and what is covered in this API discovery and what is the benefit out of it. So as a quick overview of what we cover with the FortiWeb solution, this is, I would say, this layered approach I mentioned initially. So we start always with the known risk. We cover this with all the technology I mentioned. Then we go in more details into this bot management stuff, where we cover and we can block everything which is required for scanners, crawlers, and all the credential stuffing activity. And then we come to the API protection. This is something we add on top of that. And for everything which is web-based, we can use our anomaly detection solution in order to have something really dynamic, which adapts always to your application. And this really makes sense when you are in the CI/CD space, where your developers are developing applications and you are protecting the web application, and those teams are never talking each other. And we in the later time, in the old WAF solution, we used to build a white space of all the web application requests, but this didn't evolve in time. So if the developer makes a change, it's not reactive. So we need to implement this kind of anomaly detection in order to always be up to date into this space. And the last solution we introduced in our latest version of FortiWeb is the threat analytics part. So it's an additional service we came on top of our log management into this solution. So the idea is to reduce the admin task of the non-specialist IT guys, because in our solution, we log all the events. All the attacks I mentioned are logged. It's single events. But if you don't analyze this, it's useless. You don't have any benefits out of it. But with this solution, we gather all together bad activities. For example, if you have a scan from different IP sources in Germany or whatever, I will show you an example later. The idea is to group it together in order to have a complete view of the attacks and what's going on. And then you can interact with the system and provide I would say, a blocking solution. For example, blocking something in the FortiGate, for example. The idea is really to simplify the life of the security admin and prioritize really on their main task. I would say it's administration and not going through all the logs and managing all the false positive. This is really the idea behind, is to simplify the life and to have a quicker response to security incidents. All right, Philippe.
Yeah, thank you, Sébastien. Just an example, yeah, to set the scene, because it's a nice slides, it's a nice pitch, but what is FortiWeb in practice? How is it used by some of our customers? So I wanted to take a slide to show you a bit of maybe an extreme, because I guess most of your customers will not be into this large-scale usage and deployment. But I wanted to take one of our customers, which is obviously BIT here. They have been migrating from F5 to FortiWeb into the past year. They have migrated more than 6,000 applications into FortiWeb. As you know, one application equals one security rule into FortiWeb. We will obviously look at this into the demo. But it is something, by the way, we automated that migration, so or partially automated for sure. So if you have some migration from third-party tools like F5, don't hesitate to get some support. We can really help you automate that, make it simple, make it seamless. And that is also part of the value we can propose. So in terms of access, they have more than 70,000 internal users accessing every day the applications which are protected. And then you have obviously thousands and thousands of sessions from obviously external internet user accessing all the BIT services that you are familiar with. Yeah, so there's really a massive flow. In terms of the architecture, we obviously all the traffic into BIT comes into the FortiGate cluster as point of entry. Then we have behind this FortiGate cluster, we have the FortiADC that is acting as an internet load balancer that is directing the traffic to a cluster of FortiWeb. There's a lot, obviously, into this cluster. And that cluster of FortiWeb is managed through the FortiWeb Manager, where the rules are being defined, deployed, orchestrated into the FortiWebs themselves. Yeah, it is obviously a platform which is highly redundant and very stable. So far, we are more than 1 year in operation. There was no downtime at this point, so it is clearly meeting the requirements from the BIT. Performance is really good. Obviously, there's always some hiccup at the beginning. We addressed and fixed the security rules to enable some of the. There is a learning phase. Yeah, when you deploy FortiWeb, you always have to account for a few weeks of learning phase where you have to fine-tune your security rules. So you have to obviously account for that. You have to prepare yourself for that. You have to be a bit more active with your customer into the first months of operation. But once this is done and once we have fine-tuned the rules, then we are reaching a really high performance throughput. Number of HTTP connection is really managed well. So there is no performance or throughput issues at the moment. On top of that, as Sébastien explained, we have a complete integration with what we call our security fabric, which is FortiGate, FortiADC, FortiAnalyzer, and obviously here they're not using FortiSIEM, which is our log management, but they are using a third-party solution. We integrate with also. So with the logs can be pushed into FortiAnalyzer and third-party solution like I would name Splunk, yeah, but that could be something else. So we have the connector, we have the SDN connector to log into third-party solutions from FortiWeb. So this is something also we can help you deploy and enable for customers. What we are using also is something which I don't know if you're familiar with, which is FortiAnalyzer Big Data. It's a new feature of FortiAnalyzer. Which was here very useful because due to the volume of traffic, due to the volume of log, we are using this data log intelligence, which is the big data module of FortiAnalyzer. And that is providing a lot of value also to the customer on top of the FortiWeb threat intelligence, which is also used by BIT. And it's aggregating the threats and the risks reported into FortiWeb, into FortiManager. So we have a complete PCI DSS assessment based on FortiWeb, which is managed through FortiAnalyzer, as we mentioned before. So the reporting, the compliance reporting is done through FortiAnalyzer based on the logs coming from FortiWeb. And what we discovered to this large-scale deployment is FortiWeb Manager is not rich enough to coordinate all the rules for that large-scale deployment. So we are working with our product marketing to improve FortiWeb Manager to make it more of an advanced orchestration platform. But yeah, due to the large scale, due to the very high number of rules, obviously this is one of the key enhancements, which is in progress, which will come into the next release. Yeah, so this is clearly how we are using it. So, and we have many customers in Switzerland who are really happy. This is a robust solution. This is really performing well, and as you see, compared to F5, it is very competitive. That is also one of the interests in terms of feature parity. We'll go into it. It's pretty much doing the same and more. And in terms of pricing, this is really. I will come back into the competitive aspects. Yeah, but there is quite a good coverage in terms of capabilities. So I will say a few words about. FortiGuard, we're talking about the Fabric, yeah. Fabric is key for us because it provides the complete protection to your customer, and this is not just about FortiWeb. We have, as you may know, obviously IP reputation is part of the service provided by FortiGuard into FortiWeb, into FortiGate. So this is clearly a key component. We have a new version of sandboxing, which is inline sandboxing. You may have heard about it, I'm not sure. We released into 7.02 or 7.2, we released inline sandboxing. And the same, you can combine inline sandboxing with FortiWeb, enriched by FortiGuard. So you get a full protection also about the files, if there is any file exchange on a web application. We talked about the botnet, antivirus is including, and Sébastien talked about credential stuffing. So this is also fed through our FortiGuard threat intelligence team into FortiWeb. So this is one of the key aspects about the value prop here. Looking into the big picture, now how do you get FortiWeb? Which are the form factor? How do you purchase it? How do you deploy it to your customer? So we have, you understand, FortiWeb is part of the Fabric, yeah. FortiWeb comes into 5 flavors. So first is the physical appliance, yeah. You know about it. That's the box. It's a chassis. It's 2U, and you plug it into the customer data center. So that is the appliance. It comes as a VM. And it goes into VM16, so VM01 to VM16 in terms of CPU. There's unlimited RAM usage. And to give you some ideas, the appliance will go into 70 gigabits per second of throughput traffic. The VMs will go, I think it's about 10. So we can go very high, obviously, with the appliance. There are more limitations into the VM, but it's really managing quite a lot in terms of throughput, HTTP sessions. So if you're interested into the performance of appliance versus VM, raise your hand, ask me or ask Sébastien. We can share with you the test based on VMware of the throughputs, the performance, and the HTTP sessions, yeah, which are the maximum for each of the VM model, each of the appliance model. So if you're interested into that, we can share the material with you. It's obviously strictly for our partner, not to be used for end customer, but that is something we can share with you. So that is the two, I would say, most traditional versions. Then we have FortiWeb Cloud that is hosted by Fortinet. Here it's in Frankfurt, in our data center. It's managed as a service by Fortinet. And this is a very advanced version of our WAF, which also is simpler in terms of operation. And this is something which you can really very fast track deploy for your customer. It's a few clicks. So if you have your customers being exposed, coming to you because there is a major application that they want to release and they need support in a matter of days, and they really want to get this up and running quickly, that is a way to sell and deploy FortiWeb Cloud. And you need to consider that as a very good solution also. So Sébastien will go into more depth. But this is really something you may want to consider. It's a fast track sales for you. It's just a resale in a way. And then you configure it for your customer. So you do the integration and you can do the management out of it. Yeah. So we'll go into this. And last, and I will say a few words about this, we have a FortiWeb Container Edition that can be deployed into cloud native application deployment and development. So it can be used to filter the internet traffic to containers into your customer. So most of you don't know that edition, that version, and you may not be very familiar with protecting DevOps and DevSecOps applications. But here we have a lot of practice, best practice solutions. We're happy to share with you and spend some time on that. Yeah. So now in terms of the flavor, that is what it is. Now in terms of the consumption model, this is quite interesting. We can obviously, the default is bring your own license, which is upfront. You pay upfront for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year licensing. That is working fine. You can get it into the Azure Marketplace, into the AWS Marketplace, into the Google Marketplace or Oracle Marketplace, whatever, as pay as you go hourly. So here it's charged by the cloud provider. And then we have a Flex VM program, which is quite interesting. I will say a few words about that. And then we have the FortiCloud SaaS version, which is also charged on throughput. Yeah. So that is the different flavor. I will say a few words about Flex VM in a minute. And all of the solutions benefit from the same capability, feature set, and enrichment in terms of machine learning, anti-bot, etc., FortiGuard. So it's the same. You know, in the end, it's mostly the same solution, benefiting from the same feature with the same FortiGuard threat enrichment, and that can be deployed into. You can deploy, by the way, the VM into Azure. You can deploy it into the customer data center. You can deploy it, where you want, and also you can protect the traffic locally into the branch. Yeah, we even have a desktop version of FortiWeb Appliance if you want to protect locally traffic from a branch. So that is the form factor, the flavor. So in terms of, but that's I would say that's a summary slide of what we just said. In terms of coverage, what is very important for you as a partner is to look into that Fabric integration, as we said. Yeah, we insist a bit into that, but most of the time you don't sell FortiWeb alone. You sell FortiWeb with FortiAnalyzer or FortiWeb with FortiGate, FortiWeb with the right solution, so the customer gets a full protection, not just the web and the APIs. So now in terms of the competitive aspects, because I've seen here in the room some questions about it, or I would say silent questions. So in terms of the capability and the feature, how we differentiate is about what Sébastien said, is the threat intelligence, is the machine learning capability, is the threat consolidation. That is something which is that is here. There are some machine learning. Obviously, all the competitors will claim they have machine learning, they have threat intelligence, but we have released into the latest version something which is really going beyond. We are sharing our logic into the concept, for sure, not into the detail. And this threat intelligent grouping of events into incidents is unique out there. So this is something Sébastien will demonstrate, but this is really an important new feature of FortiWeb, which is a differentiator. The sandbox inline integration, we are the only vendor with this capability. So as you want to extend web protection to file protection, inline, we have the full Fabric integration for this. And this is a key differentiator. And the man in the browser, protection is also something which is embedded into our solution by default. You get it with the standard license, where in most of the competitors, you either don't get it or you have to buy a quite expensive add-on, which is depositioning that solution. Yeah, like for F5, as I said before. And the bot detection is also, most of the vendor will come as an add-on. So you have to buy something also quite expensive. So if you look at the total price points of FortiWeb Cloud compared to other solutions, to get the same level of coverage, you might pay 30 or 40% more, just to give you our experience. Yeah. So again, I mean, I'm not saying we have to look at it case by case. If you want to deep dive into a given specific solution as a competitive assessment, obviously we have battle cards, we have more depth, and we can support you with great pleasure. So don't hesitate again to ask for any specific support if you want to position it against a competitor. Okay, so we will not share it today, but raise your arm, we can help you, and we will help you for sure. Okay, so that is just the big picture view about how it is positioned and how we can win together with FortiWeb and how you can propose and sell it successfully. Now, why FortiWeb? I will hand over to Sebastian because it's more solution oriented.
So you may ask, why should we position the FortiWeb solution against the FortiGate? Because in the FortiGate, you also have, I would say, a kind of reverse proxy features and load balancer features. But it's important to understand why you should position one against each other. The FortiGate part is really focusing on the client part. So we are not really covering in depth all the features I mentioned before. It's really a different product. So they can work together. It's really important that they can work together, but they are not providing the same level of inspection, the same level of features. So we are really not talking about machine learning into the FortiGate. We are not talking about the same product. So it's really important that you can explain to your customer, to your partner, to whatever you want, that it's a different solution. The FortiWeb solution is really focusing on web application security. It's a different way to do it. So it's really important to understand that. But as I said, it's good that those two products can work together. We can maximize our website performance because we can delegate all the inspection into the FortiWeb. We can also reduce the time. We can also accelerate the SSL inspections part directly into the FortiWeb. So we delegate this inspection directly. And we can really work real time to do some interaction between inputs we get from the FortiWeb directly into the FortiGate. For example, with new automation stuff, we can imagine to block some IPs, some countries, I don't know, directly on the FortiGate level based on the input from the FortiWeb. This is something we can create afterwards. So the idea is that you can position both, but may need to work together. This is my main topic. All right, so we come to the next topic. Do we address this one right now? Or to the
yeah, maybe we do it 10 minutes and then we do the break before we go to the demo and stuff like that. So here, again, we have presented the feature, the capability, the positioning, how to propose, how to sell. Now I will cover a bit more specific and we go more into the solution now, how to deploy, how to operate into security as code. And that is also a key success factor for you. Yeah, and this is one of the key value prop of Fortinet here. So the objective now is to help you position FortiWeb into the security lifecycle, into the how to implement seamlessly into your customer environment. So obviously, as you are designing your customer end-to-end security, this is where you have to look into how do I architect my solution with FortiGate, FortiWeb, Forti Analyzer, Forti different solutions, and the Fabric solutions. Yeah. So this is how I design the ecosystem. How do I enable HA? So we will look into how do I obviously build and deploy. What can I leverage as resources to do it quickly, seamlessly, especially as a VM, for example? How do I automate config, rules management? And how do I automate the event and incident management and detection? So we will go a little bit, again, we scratch the surface here. The objective is not to do a deep dive session, but we will just explain what is available in terms of resources for you to do security as code, security automation into the FortiWeb area. So the first thing here is obviously the templates. Yeah, you can deploy FortiWeb VM by a click of a mouse from Terraform, from ARM templates in Azure, from CloudFormation templates into AWS. You can use it you can use the REST APIs also to configure it directly. So you can push the license file, the license key into it by a script. And you can integrate through SDN connector to third-party tools. So let me just illustrate, and give you an example of how it works, because it is easy to say, but it's much better to look at it, as we say. So so this is for example our GitHub. Yeah. So this is our corporate GitHub. So you may be familiar with it. So we have an EMEA GitHub also, where you have more advanced templates, more rich events. But sorry, I need to hide. Maybe I'll let you hide while I speak, Sebastian. Thank you. So we have the Terraform templates there, and if you go to GitHub, you will be able to obviously deploy FortiWeb either into ARM as your templates, or either in Terraform or AWS. Yeah. So let's look at it. For example, on I don't know, Azure. So sorry for the thing. I will do it after. So Azure, if you go to the Azure templates, so you see we have the templates for FortiGate, FortiManager, FortiWeb, FortiAnalyzer. So not all the Fabric, but quite a few components for it. And if you go into FortiWeb here, then you have, as I was saying before, you have different flavor that you can use and deploy FortiWeb. So you can deploy it as an active cluster, active passive cluster, or an HA cluster with custom code. So let's go into an active passive cluster, for example. So what do you deploy there? Yeah, if you want to use that. So you're going to create into Azure a dedicated management VNet, which will be the point of termination of your internet traffic, which is coming from obviously a public IP address. Then we deploy automatically an Azure load balancer as the front end to the cluster of FortiWeb's VM. All the ports will be pre-configured into the Azure VNet. And then you obviously configure the internal IPs to the VNets where you have the protected customer applications running and the database further down. Yeah. So that construct is pre-configured, pre-defined. And if you look into the GitHub, you can just continue to look at it, and then you can click into deploy, and then it will create the construct. Okay, so you should use that as a partner. You don't want to lose too much time and do it again and again yourself, because you may even find it complex while it's there, and that is a lot of time saved. Yeah. So this is an example of how to do. Obviously, you can do it with an active cluster, with a single VM. You can do it on AWS, on Google Cloud. You have all the templates which are pre-cooked. Yeah. So this is just to give you a flavor of what we help you with in terms of the build and deploy. And then you can configure the IP, the ports. You can obviously customize your own development for your customer, but that is the starting point. So I was just mentioning about the GitHub templates, and you will have the link here. If you go to the EMEA GitHub, you will have much more specific templates, add-ons, dependent on how you configure, internet access with Azure, etc. That templates are proposed by our EMEA CSE team, so the expert team. They are not fully officially supported by Fortinet, so you have to consider, templates which are corporate template versus EMEA templates, and what is your best opportunity, but just so you know. Then we have SDN connector from FortiWeb, from FortiGate. These connectors help you create some rules and automation into a broader ecosystem, like log into Splunk, as I said before. So you can do it from this connector. And then you have obviously the way to automate the event management. We have all this integration into public cloud provider from FortiGate, FortiWeb, from the Fabric. So there's a lot of things you can do. Most of the partner are looking into how do I deploy FortiWeb WAF into Azure. But if I deploy this into Azure, then the customer will say, maybe I should use Azure WAF because it is already integrated into Azure native. It's there, it's up and running, it's a click of a mouse. Well, guess what? It's the same with FortiWeb. It's a click of a mouse to deploy through the Azure ARM template. It is highly available as a cluster, and you can deploy FortiWeb into an autoscale cluster into Azure. So you end up with exactly the same type of capability than Azure WAF. In terms of price point, it's slightly less. In terms of scalability, high availability, easy deployment, it's clearly the same. But now you have FortiWeb being used across all of the web applications from your customer into their private data center, into Azure, into wherever else. In a consistent way, you can manage policy from FortiWeb Manager consistently across all their applications wherever they are. So obviously Azure WAF works well, but it is a very narrow WAF solution. So you may want to open this discussion with your customer and demonstrate how easy it is to deploy, operate, integrate within the Azure platform. We integrate FortiWeb with Azure Cloud Function, so you can trigger something into Azure. You can integrate FortiWeb with Azure policies. So there's a lot of practice we can help you there. So don't be shy. If you want to position it well into public cloud, ask for help. We can demonstrate to you how it can be done, how easy it can be integrated, and how powerful it can be for your customer to manage in a consistent way. Last but not least, licensing. I talked to you about flexible licensing. We have created a FlexVM program so that your customers are not forced to have static licensing. So it is pay per use on a daily basis of usage. So every time we create a token from a FlexVM portal that looks like that. You create a token, you go into a VM, you create a virtual machine FortiWeb license dynamically by a click of a mouse. Then you get the token, you deploy it through the APIs or so this is how you generate the tokens. So you generate a token for, let's say, FortiWeb. You can do it for FortiGate, by the way. It's the same process. You get the token, you deploy the token into VMware, into Nutanix, into Azure, wherever you want. So you can license FortiWeb. And then if you stop the usage of FortiWeb, you come here, you say, I want to stop FortiWeb VM. And then you click stop, and then you're not charged anymore. So on a daily usage, then you will be able to consume tokens and provide the flexibility that your customer may get onto Azure Marketplace. You can also provide into bring your own license with FlexVM. Okay, so just want to cover that quickly. And last, I was just mentioning that you can deploy the Flex VM license through APIs. So this is also quite interesting. If you're doing as code, security as code, then you can use and you can manage licensing into your scripts in a seamless way using Flex VM. So you can start a VM, you can license the VM, you can stop the VM, you can release the license. You have all of this is available into our GitHub, into our Ansible libraries. And you can do it quite quickly. Talking about the last point, yeah, which is configure, automate the config of FortiWeb. So this is about, we talked about REST APIs just before for obviously standard operation, but we have also the Ansible libraries. That is something you may want to use more and more. So if I spend 2 minutes on that, so here it's the Ansible link. So you will have I'm actually I've shared another screen, so I don't know if it's displayed. No, it is on my PC. It's not displaying here, so I don't know why. Let me stop. Hold on 1 second. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, okay, good. So we have here, for example, our Ansible libraries. So again, you get it for FortiGate, FortiWeb, 40 different solutions. But you can really use these libraries and you can update the security rules on application level into these Ansible libraries as code. So you can use create a Cloud WAF security rule, delete it, update a rule, etc. You just do it by script. So you really have all these libraries predefined. And for you as a partner, it's a way to demonstrate to your customer how fast and how much you can automate the operations and the admin into the security. Yeah? Sometimes it can be a key differentiator and a key value prop for you to win the project. Because it's not just about feature and capability, it's how much and how fast you can operate and automate operation. Yeah, and this is really something we have spent a lot of time, and it's very matured. Okay, so that is about what I wanted to share on automation. So obviously you have Red Hat and Ansible and Terraform libraries. Again, if you want to learn a bit more, if you want to do a POC, if you want to demo to your customer, if you want to get hands-on, ask us. We are really happy to bring our specialists, have a session with you and go through this, give you more, obviously, information, more sample of programs so you can take it yourself into a fast-track approach. Yeah. Good. So I think this concludes our first part, which was what is FortiWeb? How it is in terms of feature capability, how it differentiates, how it can bring value to your customer, how you can deploy, how you can operate, how you can automate, and what are the different form factors, how to license. Okay, so we just covered this, and now we will do a quick break, and we will go a bit in depth into the value specifics, which is machine learning. We'll talk obviously about the solution features. We'll do the demo. So I propose we do a 10-minute breaks right now. So we should be back, let's say at 42 or 43, something like that. Yeah. And then we continue the session. Thank you. Thank you very much. And before we start the session, if you come with questions, that's also a good time. But let's do the break now. Then we take questions about part 1, and then we go into part 2. Thank you. See you soon. Just 1 minute to come back. So welcome back. If you're remote, sorry you could not get the coffee and the croissants, but we could enjoy here. So next time you will be welcome to join also. Yeah. So are we set to start again? Thank you very much. Yeah. Thanks for obviously coming back. So we covered the first part, which I said a bit sales oriented. We had 2 questions on this. One question was about Flex VM. The question is how many credits for FortiWeb? So I guess this is from Luca, is already using Flex VM. So let me say a few words on that just in 1 minute. So we have FlexVM, as I said, as a way of consuming the credits for FortiWeb, same as FortiGate. So I created a calculator you're happy to use. So you see on the right the points which are consumed on a daily basis by FortiGate and FortiWeb. So you know there is two types of licensing, standard and advanced. So you have the number of points per day by VM size that is being consumed. So that should answer your question. Yeah. And then on the left, you have the calculator. So you specify how many VMs I have for VM02, how many VMs I have for FortiWeb, and it calculates the number of tokens that you should sell to your customer for 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, and then it configures automatically the SKU that you should sell to your customer at least price. Then obviously you work with Ball to get the proper discount. Yeah. So it's a small calculator that I created that is helping you position quickly FlexVM, sell it efficiently, get the SKU, so you don't spend time looking around in terms of what shall I sell. Don't hesitate to ask for that. I just created myself, but it's an easy use. Yeah. So I hope it answers the question.
We also covered this as an MSSP program, of course. So it's a complement. If you already started with a FlexVM MSSP program, then you can add also this new way to consume your points with the FlexVM part, with the FortiWeb part.
Yeah. Exactly, and this is the same tokens if you're MSSP or enterprise. There's no difference. Yeah. Good. So this is the thing. Then we need to shift to Sebastian's PC just to cover the second question, which is about how do I purchase, how do I deploy? So I think Marcus, we need to shift. Thank you. So here, this is the second question is more about we told you about the different flavor. So this is the bit more depth, about the appliance, the public cloud, the SaaS, the container, something I forgot to say. It was number 5. If you remember, I told you we have 5 flavor and I just presented 4. So this is the number 5. So if you have customers using AWS and the customer wants to be cloud native, so they want to use AWS WAF instead of FortiWeb, then you should sell FortiWeb rules on AWS WAF. And this is where we have all the bot detection, threat intelligence, FortiGuard analytics, and IPS. You get that as a subscription that is sold on top of the AWS WAF. So
to the AWS solution. So you don't install the FortiWeb as a product, you just consume all the intelligence I mentioned directly embedded into the AWS WAF. So it's another way to consume it.
Yeah, and this is quite interesting. So even if the customer wants to be cloud native, please don't hesitate to mention that as an option. Yeah. And to answer the question about how do I order, what are the features, the config. So I put here a sample of the ordering guideline that you find into Partner Portal. But again, happy to provide you the PDF. This listing all the capabilities, the feature sets, the sizing of the appliance, of the VM. If you go to the next slide, we have the VM, same thing for VMs. And then you get, sorry, that was the opposite. So VM was the first slide, that is the physical appliance. And then if you need the performance on each of them, just ask, and we give you also the performance data. Yeah. Okay. So this was to answer the second question, more about the form factor, the features, the how to order. You have the SKUs obviously at the bottom, so you will have it into the presentation, and you can use it further. And obviously go to Ball if you need to get more specific information about how to configure. Okay, so that concludes. I can guarantee the sales part. So I hand over to Sebastian now to go more into the in-depth and the demo.
So I will stay here if it's okay for you, because I will need to switch between the different presentation and what we have to say. But just as a conclusion of what Philippe already presented. So as you understand, we have really two different flavors of the FortiWeb solution. The first one is appliance and hardware. It's a solution where I will get in more detail what's behind. But the idea there is that we position this solution mainly on service provider or customer who wants to really tweak the solution, because we have more details. We can really fine tune all the parameters, what we want to achieve. So it's a more granular option. I will show you the GUI just after, but we have more way to configure and more information which came back out of it. And the FortiWeb Cloud solution, as I said, it's a full feature option to deliver fast track security solution for your customer, but you will not be able to really see what's behind and fine tune all the parameters. So it's a different way to position it. If you want to deliver a service quick, easy, and efficient, then go with the FortiWeb Cloud. It's hosted in the public cloud, so managed by Fortinet, and the other solution is more hosted for you. So if you want to provide a Swiss services, for example, for your customer hosted into your data center, then you should position the FortiWeb traditional solution. I just want to be really clear on that we have two solutions and two ways to manage it. So quickly, I will go to the demo part. But it's not switching to my web portal. Do you know why it's not switching?
You have to present. Stop presenting.
Stop presenting. Okay. Okay. So just to make it short and easy, this is the GUI from a FortiWeb demo. This is a demo environment, so I will not be able to configure and tweak everything because it's static. I can't manage everything, but it's just to show you the difference between those two solutions. So we have this FortiWeb. So the FortiWeb VM, as I showed you, is really what we find into the FortiWeb VM and in the appliance part. So we have a full blend solution where you can manage everything related to your web applications. So basically, if you go into this section, everything is linked to a server policy. So the server policy aggregates all the different layers I mentioned initially. So into this policy, let's take, for example, the machine learning one. So as I said, you can really map all your policies to any web application you need to have, because you can define different policies for different applications for sure, because you will not be able, you don't want to provide the same level of services for all the applications. So sorry, it's a bit slow because I'm using a web services and it's not really real time, but basically we can find here the different profile we want to use. For example, we are in a single server deployment. We map our virtual server and our server pool inside of it. And we also map here our web protection profile. I will come just after what's behind the web protection profile and see how we can really customize all of this. And inside this, this server policy, this is where also we enable the different machine learning methodology we want to use. So you see we have 3 of them available: anomaly detection, I will come in more details what's behind, bot detection and API protection. Just to make it short also, everything related to web protection profile. So this is where you can really create a profile of security services for an applications. So you can use basically those who are already predefined, so we can protect easily Exchange Server, SharePoint, WordPress, something like that, or use inline standard protection. This is what is recommended. But you can also tweak and create your own web protection profile. And inside the profile, we'll take it. We'll take one. I don't know which one. I demo. I don't know what's inside. But this is basically where you define all the protection you want to enable for this web application. Sorry, real-time demo. It's not a video, so it needs to charge. And yeah, this is where you can really enable all the protection. So this one is maybe not the best one because nothing is configured in this one. I'll take another one. But I think let's take the inline standard. I think all of the stuff are configured in this one. All right, come on. Demo effect. So this is really where you can map and edit all your stuff. You see that you can make some header security, SQL injection. You can also do all the thing you want, and you can create really custom policy for each signature. So the web protection profile is really the mapping to all the things you want to add into a profile, and then this profile is applied to your server policy. So for each of these applications, you can really tweak it, and you see that for all of them, not in the demo part, but you can really edit and change the way it's configured and edit your own custom policy for each applications. So we should really consider this as a really fine-tuned solution where you can do everything you want, and you have the visibility, on what you are doing and what you are learning. I will come just after in the machine learning part in more detail what's behind. As another option, this is the FortiWeb Cloud solutions. So really, it's a web-based solution, SaaS services, really more simple. And you can see in this demo, 3 demo sites. So we have 3 applications, one hosted in AWS, one in Azure, and one in GCP. So let's go to the, sorry. I was disconnected, not active enough. So let's go to AWS.
That's where you're getting ready, Sebastian.
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, just a few words. As you're working with your customer into demo, POCs, or whatever, you have 2 weeks of free licensing that you can use whenever you deploy FortiWeb VM into Azure, AWS, etc. So you can always create a demo or early stage onboarding environment with 2 weeks of free licensing. Then you can use additional license further, that we can generate for you. But just so you know, your customer can enjoy these 2 weeks of free licensing as here. Yeah. So
this is basically a self-service trial. So any customer who wants to try out our solution, just go into the FortiWebCloud.com portal, start the free trial, and you have 15 days, as mentioned by Philippe, starting your web application. For the other solution, yes, ask us to provide a license, and we can provide you as a partner a license solutions. So, as you see on the FortiWeb Cloud, it's more simple to configure. We don't have that much of details onto the tweaking part, but we have anyway the important information. We have a global overview of our application. We have dashboards. We have a lot of details on that. If we come to security rules, we are configuring it as a layered approach I mentioned, but we don't have much more details out of it. So if we go, for example, on known attacks, you simply enable the SQL injection, cross-site scripting, blah, blah, blah. It's easy to tweak and to enable. And if you need, for a specific case, to create an exception, because sometimes you have to manage a false positive or something, you just create an exception rule here, and you can bypass these by default configurations. But the idea behind is really that you can easily start with something, enable the default protection, and then your application is protected by default. So this is the main idea behind the FortiWeb Cloud solutions. And you see that you can enable all the features as I mentioned, anomaly detection, information leakage, cookie security, for example, you can also manage directly. This is something really easy to implement. We also have the DDoS protection. It's basic because you don't have a lot of features to enable, but you just say the limit you want to have and the kind of protection you want to provide into these services. One thing also I need to mention regarding the difference between the cloud services and our solution is that with the cloud services, you can enable the CDN functionality. So for a worldwide customer who have spread this application everywhere, for example, who have multiple AWS websites everywhere, you can enable the CDN functionality. It's included into the product, and you can distribute the load across the regions. So this is something also really interesting because you don't need to have a GSLB configuration, for example. It's included into the product. But for these features, basically, it's only included into the cloud services. But it's worth to mention that this service is available. We use Akamai behind to make the distribution, and I think it's worth to mention. So basically, you understand the difference between those two solutions. Now, let's come back to the presentation. Why are we talking about machine learning? What's behind? Why are we doing this? And how it works? So basically, as I mentioned, applications are changing during times because developers are not waiting to implement new features. So we implement always new solutions. So we are really into the CI/CD space where developers are doing their jobs, pushing every time new solutions, and we need to adapt also the security solutions. So how it works, our solution basically collects samples of parameters. For example, we have parameters, which is an email address, for example. We collect samples, we analyze which parameters we received, and basically it should be formed in a certain way. And if we receive something different, then we maybe consider this as an anomaly. We will come in more details. But basically, we use this sample collection methodology in order to provide the web security and to always adapt to the solutions. So of course, we are in the CI/CD space. And what we've seen in the past is that traditional WAF solutions are not really reactive into this space because developers are pushing their codes. Our legacy WAF usually blocks everything we have written. So it's good for you if you are a service provider because you write everything and you protect everything. But when it changes, it doesn't work anymore. So your customer is calling back and they say, my new application is not working, please fix it. And then you need to also to talk with developers and troubleshoot the problem. And this is really create a friction because those teams are not really working together. This is why we need also the machine learning in order to make it really interactive, not to be able not to rely only on developer information in order to be really reactive. This is why we need this machine learning stuff. So basically, in a traditional WAF solution, what we are doing, we have, I would say, the traditional traffic, normal request. We go to a threat detection model, which basically it's a whitelisting. This is how it's done in the past on some open source solution. If we have some anomaly detected, then we should also distinguish the anomaly from the threat part. Everything which is whitelist, then it goes through, works. All anomalies could be a threats or benign anomalies. They are blocked because they are not in the white space model. So I would say it's not really interactive because you need to manage all the false positive in this case. If it's just a human error, which just do an information. So it's not the right way to manage this. And we have a lot of issue behind all those stuff. The way we are doing is a bit different. We first do anomaly detections. So all the legitimate traffic will go through, and then we analyze all the anomalies. So all our legitimate traffic, which is really good one, go through, we passed and it works. But everything which is anomaly based, we are launching threat detection models. So these threat detection models employs a different technology I mentioned. So it could be known anomalies, so we block automatically, or we use pattern matching with the machine learning in order to build this model and to block only the threat part of the request. So this means that if a user, for example, just make a small mistakes, it should not reinvent the model. We block it, but we let through all the legitimate traffic. And this really helps us not to be overwhelmed with all the false positive stuff. And this is really important because it reacts real time on that. You see all the normal and benign traffic going through in this case. Now, let's talk about API discovery, what it is. We mentioned that API could be really a tricky stuff to manage. So why are we doing this? Because as the web development is changing also fast, API is also evolving. So if you publish a new application, you also publish new methodology, you evolve into your API space. So you have a API lifecycle to manage. We also see that we have a lot of microservices API which are coming because more and more are become active into the CI/CD space, and you can't really secure those microservices which pops up every time. So we need to discover those API, not only to code them or to allow them when they are on the market. So we need really to discover and to understand that API requests can be made and that we need to interact with this. And we also need to shadow some of the APIs. It's important that not all the APIs are available to everyone, because sometimes we have shadow APIs which are reserved to developers, for example, and should not be public because sometimes those requests can deliver a lot of information. So we don't want them to be available. But we have challenge in this space, as I said, because it's not easy to understand what's really behind, what are the ambiguity, for example, in the patterns, in the schema. So this is where we want to introduce the machine learning part, because in the ambiguity, we have a lot of stuff to manage to understand exactly what is the difference between those two requests, for example, because they are belonging to the same API, for example, but maybe they don't provide the same results. So this is really important to understand what is the API, what the request use as a parameters, and what are the results of the different parameters when they are used on this market. And this is where it's really important to understand that exactly how it works, how the model is built, and how we use this into the protection space, because we need to understand exactly what we want to protect and how we protect this. So our vision there, as I said, is that we want to have something agile, because everything is moving fast and we want to make it really real time adapt. But I won't say that if you make a change, it's real time changing into the protection, but it adapts with times. So you don't need to take care that you change these parameters, it's a different ones, and I need to integrate this into my security space. It will come as a security features reactive into the time. We also have the easy onboarding features because as we mentioned earlier, we can have this easy for a new application available into the FortiWeb Cloud, for example. It's just a few clicks. I will show you more in details how it works, but we can easily apply these features. And of course, we will also cover the threat analytics part. It's really an important topic because if you just struggle with the logs, sometimes the logs are really difficult to understand, and you have a lot of incidents, a lot of logs, and at the end, if nobody really takes care of that, nothing happens. But if you merge all those logs into an incident and you create action out of it, maybe it creates value and you can really benefit out of it. API discovery, how it works. So basically, it's a step-by-step process where we learn really the schema and the different way to learn these APIs. So we examine a lot of different parameters like URL distance, path, the different queries, the headers. All those stuff are analyzed by the machine learning model, and this helps us to understand how it works as we simulate it to as a API request, for example. So our artificial machine learning stuff is really gathering all this information and builds a model based on those parameters. As I mentioned, how it works. So basically, we configure this at the server policy level. I just show you into the demo just before. We configure this per server. So we have, for example, in this case, the fortiweb.com domain, and we build this API protection on the different services. When we build this solution, we start in a learning mode. So this means that the model is not instant. We need to generate requests and to make it live. So this model is really built on the learning by doing, I would say, and we generate requests, and then it comes to a model, and this model comes really into a running model when we have enough samples in order to build confidence into this model. So we see into this space that we have a different view. We can see a global overview of our model, in this case for this domain. And we can also build the full view, the full tree view of the different API requests we have seen into this kind of request. So it's a tree view. So you can really drill down into the different JSON requests, for example, and all the parameters and response structure we have. We can also build the schema of this request to understand really how it works, how it's built, and the full body of the API call. If we go to API view, we have something, I would say, which really resonates to those who are working on the API space, because we build this API view with all the requests, and it could also be used, for example, for documentation or something you want to build or document into your space, because we build the full schema based on our analysis. We can drill down on each API calls, for example, with this ID and the different parameters, and evaluate all the different request and body response. And we can find also into the log everything which could be a violation of this stuff, because it's important to build the model, but it's also important to understand that someone is doing bad with this stuff. So this is in the log part. You can really learn what are the parameter violation you have into this area. So yeah, you have a lot of details into the logs to understand really what goes wrong, what are the parameters which are expected, the length, for example, in this case, it's based on the length, and you can really understand in details what's going on, what this user tries to do. So it's an important topic also to understand that in more details. So as I said, this API discovery is a new features of the version 7 of FortiWeb. It's included into details this way into the FortiWeb VM and FortiWeb Appliance solution. But if we go also into the GUI, we should have also this API protection also coming directly into the FortiWeb Cloud. But you don't see more in details all this building of the models, all those details I show into the other one. So it's a bit different. But at the end, we provide the same kind of services to the customer. All right. Next topic, threat analytics.
To ask question,
yeah, the question about API. We've seen some application with GraphQL. I don't know if FortiWeb already includes this.
GraphQL?
GraphQL.
I'm not sure of that.
Repeat the question.
Yeah, the question is, you are seeing a lot of application coming with GraphQL, right?
Yes. Replacement of API, simple open API.
Okay. To be honest, I'm not sure we are covering this part already. I need to check if we are there yet. Not right now. The open API part for sure is totally covered, but the graph, I'm not sure of that. So I need to get back to you on if it's on the loop to cover this new way to analyze the. By default, right now, I think it's not included, but I need to check if it's coming or we do it in the later future. All right.
You have another question regarding the server application profiles. Are the predefined server application profiles getting updated automatically?
Yes. Yes, because we benefit from the different new signature and the different models I mentioned. So it's not static only SQL and cross-site scripting, for example. We have a lot of other stuff which comes into this space, and this also benefits from signature update. For example, we have a GeoDB which can be used also. For example, if you want to block some requests from foreign countries, we will not drop examples right now, but you know exactly what I mean. And this is something which is really dynamic and comes with the signature part.
Okay, thanks.
All right. All right. So let's go into the threat analytics part. So as we already know, we have a lot of stuff which generates a lot of activities for security operators. The rise of bots and the new way to create application and attacks. It's something which really generates a lot of activities for security operators. We also see that we have more and more multi-layer attack strategy. So attacks are becoming more complex. And if you just have those logs coming and you don't really make the full investigation out of your log using, for example, a SIEM solution, then you are blind. It's just blocking some actions, but you don't create a real story out of it. So it's just some bad logs. And we also have some alerts which are contextless. You just see a pop-up. Someone's trying to connect this one. Someone's trying to connect or blocked on a specific request. But if you just take this alert, it doesn't make sense because it's not a full story. But it could be a trigger to something more big, which could lead, for example, to a data leakage, for example, or to an API leakage. It could be also another option. And also is that more and more security operators are completely overwhelmed with all those stuff because they have to manage the web application, but they also need to manage the the firewall, they need to manage the proxy, they need to manage everything, but all they can create a story out of that. So how can we really simplify their life into this space? So that's why we created this solution directly embedded into in this example, into the FortiWeb part. So the idea is that we use AI-powered threat analysis in order to group all those events, those single events, into something bigger. So in this example, we can have a bot attacks with different IPs, and we can also enrich this context with the different logs we received. For example, if we have multiple IPs coming into the same space, maybe it's a DDoS attacks, but we create out of it an incident. We map it also with a risk. So this is something you don't really manage at the end. This is something which is done for you, but you just use the result out of it in order to really understand what's behind and what's really inside this security space. So how it works in details. So we have different informations coming into your logs. For example, the attack source, the attack types, and the destinations. We also try to understand the fingerprinting of this attack sequence by understanding on the long terms what's behind. So what is, for example, an activity for 60 minutes, and we try to group it all together. And we use this machine learning model in order to bring it all together and to create these different incidents. Because at the end, the idea is that we really create security incidents, which are the aggregation of those different security alerts we have into the risk. And we also put a risk tag out of it. So this is something really important for you. So you can really focus on what is high risk for you and what can you do, for example. Let's take the example of you have a specific business in whatever you want, and you have a country which tries to steal your information, and you received a lot of attacks coming from this country. So single incidents may not reveal that you have this kind of attacks, but grouping this, you will maybe have a high security risk incident saying that this specific country tried to attack you in this way. And this is where you can, for example, at the end, create a GeoDB blocking for this country. You don't want to make any more business with them. You cut everything and you don't receive requests from a specific country. This is a solution. And this is a concrete example which could happen into this space. So this concludes my presentation part. Just want to show you what is really included into this space. So if we go into the threat analytics parts, so you see that it's directly embedded into the FortiWeb Cloud portal. So we see this threat analytics on all your application you protect. So it's not a per application view, but it's really a global overview of everything which could happen to your application. So we see there the different cloud application I mentioned initially. We have one on Azure, AWS, and GCP. And we have this global overview of what we have seen into this dashboard. So we can have it last 24 hours, last 10 days, last 30 days. We can easily see the different incident by country, by severity, for example, multiple attacks from the United States. So you see in this view, it's not a detailed view. It's really an aggregate view for security incidents. So maybe you can say that you should not work with United States, or you want to do a specific stuff. Not a good example, but this is just for example purpose. And if you go into the incident part, you can see there the result of this analysis. So if you go in more detail, let's take the example of one application, AWS. We have this log view. This is all the attack we received for these applications. So it's really sequenced. It's real time. You can have it. It's more details. Of course, it's important. If you have time, you can take time to analyze all of this and try to block it. But the idea behind is to use this kind of logs in order to create a model and create incidents out of it. And this is the result of this analysis. You don't do anything. Everything is included. You packed everything inside of it. And maybe if you have a cross-platform environment, because the log I mentioned were just for this application, this is the aggregate view. If you are, for example, the target of your all application which are running in different environments, then this threat analytics could also help make it together and understand that you are under attack for a specific reason. And this is really the purpose out of it. And out of that, you can create, you have this complete view. You can see it. Sorry, in the demo, we don't have this status stuff because I cannot change it from acknowledge or taking some actions. It's not part of the demo demo platform, sorry. But there you can say that, for example, for this event, I want to do something. Or I acknowledge because for me it's normal and I don't care. This is something you can really trigger. So as a resume, the solution is really complete. You can make it really complicated to configure or make it really easy to onboard. As I said, it's really the onboarding process of the FortiWeb Cloud is really easy. At the end, if you create a new application, I'm not sure I can do it this way. No, I don't. But I have some slides for that. Let me quickly go there. The onboarding process is really simple. If you want to secure an app, you just need to create a new application into the portal. Basically, it's just creating a new DNS entry, pointing out to this entry just here. When you are in the wizard of creating a new solution, you will receive the domain, and you just point out your DNS entry into this new domain, and then it becomes active. You need to wait a bit in order to DNS to be updated, and you can force at the DNS level. But basically, that's it. You create your application, domain name. In the domain, you point to the web solution, and we manage the traffic. And the same for the CDN part. I can't show you into the portal, but definitely this is exactly the same solution. Sorry. You can enable the CDN part directly into the portal for a specific application. Let's say that you have a application distributed all over the world. You enable the CDN part, and your application is available everywhere, in all your backend. So I think it's really interesting to go more deep into this space. I think we are coming to an end. For some
more things maybe to share, then we can take questions. Yeah, thank you, Sébastien. Something I wanted to share is where to get more resources for the FortiWeb and FortiWeb Cloud. How to get some material information and what to use. So this is the first thing I wanted to share. So this is the document library. So this is yeah. So I don't know why it's not showing, but
if you can just flip back to online.
Yeah. So Sébastien is sharing right now. So if you go to our document library, as Sébastien was sharing, you go into FortiCloud and you see how to onboard new application, how to deploy, how to configure, and it's quite simple. And you have the user guide, you have the API reference, and you see here, if you get started, we can getting started, how to upload, onboard an application, how to configure the DNS on AWS, on Azure, on wherever. Yeah. So this is really a quick start. And for you as a partner, use this because that is a fast track for you to deploy, configure, and obviously enable for your customer quickly.
And remember that FortiWeb Cloud, it's a web services. So we also come with new features. For example, the threat analytics and machine learning or API were not available at that time. So this is something which comes with new release. So I would say that at least twice a year, we come with new release and add new functionalities. So you really need also to follow what's coming in this space. And it's not exactly the same as managing it as upgrading, for example, a standard FortiWeb, because basically we do it for you as it's a FortiWeb managed service.
Yeah, so that's the first point I wanted to cover, which is obviously where to get more information. As I said, anything pertaining to performance, to deep dive into the threat model, into the ML or anything, just come to us. Now, the second thing I wanted to share is I had a question during the break here in presence about the container model and how to use FortiWeb for container protection. So I wanted to go a bit into this and share with you the container threat model. Yeah, let me try to do a screen show. That will help. Thank you. So back to the question we had at the break here. So the container threat model is something that is quite key whenever you go into your customers and you want to help them secure their new application developments and their obviously serverless container. You have to help them secure 1 to 8. Yeah, this is the container threat model, which is, by the way, it's not only by Fortinet. So you have to help your customer make sure they are secured for number 1, which is registry, container registry security, so scanning. So it's application and container scanning, dynamic, passive scan, etc. So here we have FortiDevSec. That is a solution, but anyway, I will not go through all of this because that was not the purpose of today. But I will just focus into one aspect, which is how to secure a Kubernetes cluster with FortiWeb, which was the question, yeah, with FortiWeb and FortiGate VM. So FortiWeb comes with a container edition, as you see, and we use FortiWeb as obviously the filtering solution between your pods and your container Kubernetes cluster. And we use it through REST APIs to secure the worker nodes. So we have this default solution that is also available through deployment scripts. So if you want to get and leverage node pod, worker node protection mechanisms for internet access, or we call it ingress access. Yeah, we use the ingress controller traffic management. So that is how you can use FortiWeb, and most of the time it is obviously deployed with FortiGate for the network protection to the container. So we use here the FortiGate that you see here for the obviously the internet traffic filtering between node to node, pod to pod. So we use FortiGate VM for that traffic filtering, east-west traffic management, and we use FortiGate, FortiWeb Container Edition for APIs and web access for the Kubernetes worker nodes. Okay, so we are obviously having this default best practice design and architecture available for you. So if you want to engage with your customer, if you want to demonstrate that, come to us. This is with great pleasure. Most of the time, by the way, when you look at our competitor, they will tell your customers, If you want to protect container, if you want to protect internet access for your container, you have to buy this great new solution, which is called ABC, which is really exotic, and you have to configure and deploy, and it's brand new, it's working great. But guess what? It's another solution. Yeah. Here it's FortiWeb, it's FortiGate. It is exactly the same as what they have on-prem, as what they have into Azure, into AWS. It's consistent. You can use it for container. It's the same thing. So it's not like you have to buy a new license or you have to buy a new product or anything else. So it's really helping your customer very much into their end-to-end security. Yeah. So this is also something which is unique with Fortinet. We protect web application, container, network access, private, public, the same way. Okay, so that was to answer one of the questions we had here into the break, and for sure I can deep dive a bit more into this. Any other question from anyone in the room or remote before we conclude the session? Don't hesitate, don't be shy. You know, we can help a bit, and we can obviously organize a follow-up session with great pleasure if you want to ask your questions in direct mode.
Licenses. If you want to test out something into your lab, feel free to ask us. We can deliver a FortiWeb license for 60 days for our partners. And if you want to test out the FortiWeb Cloud solution, it's easy. Just go to FortiWebCloud.com and just start the trial. It's really easy for 15 days. To test out the solution.
And on top of all these options, we have another option, because we are trying to help you as much as we can. If you are going through the NSE 6 cloud certification, which is about half a day training, which is really worth it, then you are being proposed, we call it a cloud kit, which is all VMs from Fortinet, FortiGate VM, FortiWeb VM, FortiMail VM, FortiAnalyzer VM, FortiManager VM. So any VMs you want at 80% discount. So as you are going into this NSE 6 cloud certification, which is really interesting because you can go through NSE 6 Azure or NSE 6 AWS, and you get a good understanding about network security to the cloud. Then you can purchase at 80% discount any VM license. So you can use it for your own purpose, for customer POC, for a demo, whatever you want. Yeah. So this is another opportunity for you on top of the 2 weeks free trial, on top of the ITF license for your own use. You can get 80% discount on customer demo POCs and things like that. Yeah, and really happy to help you with this, because you know that's by doing and learning that you can become agile with your customer. Okay. Any other question? Anyone? I don't know, Rudy, if you see anything on the chat.
If you have anything for people who are present in the room, we can also interact after.
Okay, so if there is no question, I think this was our objective today, to do a top-down review of the FortiWeb capability. Anything you need to engage with your customer, to differentiate, to demo or to demonstrate the value prop and how we differentiate. We are the key contacts here. Sebastian is the expert for Switzerland. I'm the business developer, so happy to assist you into customer projects also. Don't hesitate to engage us. We are here to help, so with great pleasure. And also, obviously, Ball is for sure happy to support you. So I hand over to you, Rudy, for the conclusion. Thank you again very much.
Thank you, Sebastian and Philippe. It was a very interesting session. Are more questions in the room? No? Okay. Then I think if you have some questions regarding the FortiWeb, come to Paul or to Philippe or Sebastian. And I think we will close the session, and thank you for attending this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Bye.